So this is probably going to be my first video I post onto YouTube, but I've been doing some random videos here, and basically what I'm doing is typing certain questions or things into AI and having it prompt some ideas to kind of talk about. 9/11 is here, and as we all know, there's a lot of conspiracies about what happened on September 11th, 2001. Right? Just to get started, people would probably call me a conspiracy theorist, but I don't. I love events and love learning events and thinking about events logically, um, about events that have further agendas. Now, conspiracy theorists, I truly believe those are the people. Maybe the earth is flat. Is Michelle Obama a guy? Does he have things of that sort? I have no interest in. It's not going to explain drivers of the world, how to move populations, how to create crises for their own benefit. It has no issue. Now, the earth is flat is another thing. Will we ever know? How much time will I waste and I still not find an answer? What does that mean for the future? Whatever. It doesn't. But however, the moon landing is fake is a different topic, because the moon landing being fake or real drove an agenda for the entire world for America to be the dominant power and to continue to be the dominant power right before they dropped everybody on the gold standard. So that, as a conspiracy I'm interested in, I like to learn about. 9/11 is another one because it was the greatest attack on the own people right in front of them, and you probably still cannot convince an average person that it was an inside job. And that is how powerful the people are and the media is, because that's just how much control they have over people. People don't want to think logically for themselves in any way, shape, or form. And so these type of videos, that's my whole goal. I'm gonna write, there's a few points about 9/11 I'm going to read, and then I'm gonna try to, obviously I have an opinion, I'm biased, I'm not spitting too many facts, I'm showing you what I think about things as I experienced through my life and the things that I read. And it's been, I have watched a lot of videos and read a lot of things regarding 9/11, so it is a topic I feel comfortable even talking about, because it did play a huge role in my life growing up and so forth. So, was 9/11 an inside job? Um, the few main arguments I'd like to get started, the few main arguments I've had throughout conversations is, how could they pull this off with so many people knowing? And it's a very common thing, just like COVID and 11, so many different things. Moon landing, that's the most common thing. It's like, but too many people would know. And you're right. 9/11 was a huge job, huge job. But look at all the people that have died right after that and continuously. And how many people cannot say things even if they wanted to, and ignore questions and ignore everything throughout history, not just with 9/11. So that is a big point. Yes, it would take. But the problem is also, is we saw this with COVID, and you could probably easily see it. Nobody has any clue what's going on. They're just doing what they're told to do, right? They're just doing their job. Same thing with 9/11 is, yes, there is a lot of people sitting on a table that have power and say, okay, and they go to those under them and say, go do this. People, why are we doing this? They don't know why. They don't understand why. And then something happens, like, oh shit, did you know? No, I had no idea. It was just random. Oh, they're just doing their jobs. You know? Um, Most common argument. And also another thing is why. Why would they do this? Or the other one should say, a lot of people wouldn't probably like to believe that our government would kill 4,000 people for an agenda. But if you really think about it, the agenda that came afterwards, regardless, the reaction to the action, killed millions. So you don't think that they're going to kill 3,000, but it's okay if they kill millions due to the reaction of what happened. So if you truly think that the government won't kill a few thousand people, you haven't really thought about how many people they killed because even if they did or didn't kill 3,000 people, they killed millions after that. And they're directly responsible for that. So it's pretty dumb to think that they wouldn't kill a few thousand people when they literally killed millions after that. All right. So, but again, a lot of other questions is why? Why would they do this? Right? Why would they perpetrate an attack on themselves? For what reason? Well, let me give you a few reasons. One, what happened right after that? They launched a massive campaign. The media was all about bringing America back together, uniting us. We had one common enemy. So we all got united. They had millions. I think it was like 2 or 3 million people wanting to sign up for the military right after it happened. The agenda that they knew was do this, it's going to lead to this. They needed those people to sign up because they needed war. Why did they need war? Why did they want war? Why would they do this? Well, because again, they own all the war machines. They are the war machine. They need war for many reasons. One, they can print money. They can continue the economy by subsidizing all of the weapon manufacturers and so forth. And two, they can retain global order for the dollar in the Middle East through pharmaceuticals in Afghanistan and through oil distribution in Iraq. All right. Iraq was selling oil for gold. That is against the dollar standard. We had to stop them and we had to go confiscate their gold. All right, and we absolutely did. Yes, it was only a few $billion, but that is a massive amount of liquidity. And also, when you have one bad actor starting to act bad and and everybody else starts to see that, like, wait, why are we over here when that's a much better use of our resources? We're getting something for something. So we had to stop that. We had to stop that before. We had to show our dominance, so forth. So the agenda had a reason. What was the reason? To sustain the global order for the dollar in the Middle East, and also to print money, right? Because we have so much debt. We're allowed to print money. The elites, whoever perpetrated it, could also pocket money themselves while covering their asses. And one way they covered their ass is another conspiracy point that's not on this list is the insurance policy that went out on the buildings 6 months before they collapsed, right? So we know the owner pulled out a massive $2 billion insurance policy on the buildings 6 months or so before it happened. And the timeline is about right. It would probably take about that to set all this up and do it. So now let's move on. And I'm going to go over what the AI said. I said, what common arguments on why 9/11 was an inside job? As a conspiracy theorist, I believe that there are several arguments that 9/11 was an inside job. Here are a few common ones. Number one, Building 7 collapse. One argument revolves around the collapse of World Trade Center Building 7. Critics claim that it fell at near freefall speed and was systematic collapse, which they say is indicative to a controlled demolition rather than solely caused by fires. Well, that has a lot of truth to it. There's only been one building in the history as that sort of building that has collapsed at a free fall speed, because it did. You can watch the video. You can watch all the videos. The only building in history to ever collapse at anything like that from a fire. It's absolutely pretty much impossible for that to happen. So what caused Building 7 to collapse? And if it was a controlled demolition, it would take weeks to prepare the building for such. And why Building 7? Well, it was a part of insurance policy. And two, it had all of the documents and everything that was needed because, again, I mean, the conspiracy is that the Pentagon, or the government and Pentagon was missing a couple trillion or 6 trillion or some form amount of money, and they were going to be getting audited. Well, 9/11 happened, and who can you audit? All the papers are destroyed, all of our evidence is destroyed, and well, oh well, right? And so that was the conspiracy why they blew up Building 7, was because that was the building that had all the evidence about all the missing money. Some people say it was one of the buildings that had gold in it. I don't know about that. I don't know about the papers. I'm just telling you some arguments about so. What I do know is what I've seen on TV, and you can see the building collapse at a free fall speed, and it was only on fire for how long? There's not, I mean, it just does not make sense, right? Think logically. Without any agendas further, without any thinking about what happened before or after, whatever, how can a building collapse like that? And some people say it was due to structural damage for the other towers collapsing, and that made that building more weak. But then how come none of the other buildings around it also collapsed? Well, maybe because they went on fire, right? But did the fire truly bring structural damage to the bottom of a building for it to that much? No. Fire rises, right? So Building 7 is the most blatant thing that you can see to say, hey, something isn't right about 9/11, right? Something isn't right. Well, and you have to listen to some interviews about demolition experts. Also, I did not verify, I heard that the #1 demolition expert team in New York, or in New Jersey, I believe, around that time went crazy and killed themselves and their family a couple weeks or a month after 9/11 happened. So did they pound explosives and then simply they got killed because, they were part of the inside job and they can no longer speak. They can no longer, so who knows? I mean, I don't know exactly if that's true. That's something that you could really dig into. But again, what I know, that building, again, listen to some experts. There's a lot of people's opinions on that have direct resumes for building demolitions and demolition experts, and they say that's just not possible. Never seen before. I don't know how. I can't tell you, other than if I used explosives. And how did those explosives get in the building so fast? That's the hard part. It had to have been an inside job, right? So, and again, #2, the Pentagon attack. Some theorists argue that the damage caused to the Pentagon did not match the impact of a Boeing 757 plane. They claim that there's a lack of visible wreckage and question why there's no clear security camera images of the plane hitting the building. However, there are some security photos out there on the internet that you can see, and it clearly looks like a missile going in, not a plane. How did the plane fly that low to the ground, perfect into there? Where are the engines? My other question is, where are all the bodies, right? I don't know if you ever looked at some plane wreckages from planes getting blown up in war and sky, planes crashing, Malaysia Air. all of that sort of thing, there is an absolute disaster of a mess, right? Because there's so much crap on a plane. Nothing, it just doesn't blow up. And if it does blow up, blows up in more pieces. It's not just going to kind of necessarily disintegrate. And bodies don't necessarily quite disintegrate after, right away, especially on, crashes. And that's going to be the big argument for the next one on Flight 93 as well. So a lot of people say that there was not, an engine turbine was brought on top of the truck into the area and it wasn't really picked up. How did they get that turbine onto the truck so quickly? Where did it come from? Whatever. They just wanted pictures, videos of an engine at the site, to make people believe that it actually was a plane that hit it. So did they have a warehouse around there and they were just ready to bring it in, throw some plane parts and so forth? And that's another thing about, I think, the building is you can't find the black box or you can't find certain things, but they found passports, right? Does that make any sense? So forth. They found passports at the World Trade Center site. But I mean, does that make truly any sense at all? No. But it makes the masses believe that, oh, it must have been them. They found their passports without thinking any logic at all. How does that make sense when there's a massive explosion and so forth? The Pentagon, why were the cameras all disabled? Why did that missile happen to hit the only part of the Pentagon that had construction going on and so forth, to, obviously cause, less casualties and so forth. They didn't want to kill their people close to them or so forth, or, whatever. But the Pentagon is a weird one as well. Flight 93 is the next one. Skeptics question official narrative surrounding Flight 93, which crashed in Pennsylvania. Some argue that the wreckage found at the crash site does not match the impact of a commercial airline crash, suggesting that a different explanation may be more plausible. Absolutely. Again, that's the same argument as kind of the Pentagon. Where is all the wreckage? Where is all the dead bodies? Where is everything? You can find more evidence of a wreckage when you launch a missile and blow up a plane in midair and it crashes down versus Flight 93. Flight 93 was a simple hole in the ground. I watched it with my own eyes. I literally was like, where is all, like, isn't there dead bodies? And I remember saying, no, it all gets blown up. I'm like, huh? I'm growing up, you see other, no, go research what a real plane crash looks like, and then go back and try to find some of the live video footage that was being filmed. It's very difficult to find, but it's out there on the internet. People always archive it and all that stuff. Where are all the bodies? Where is everything? And that's going to be a question for in a little bit, which is pretty terrible. But anyway, number 4, the prior knowledge. Conspiracy often point to claim that intelligence agency and government officials possess knowledge about the attacks before that it occurred. They also argue that this foreknowledge suggests potential inside involvement or complicity. Kind of like the insurance policies. I don't know what also they're telling about, whether, again, what information they had, I don't quite know. The only thing that kind of comes to my head is obviously somebody pulling, the building owner pulling out an insurance policy and so forth. I'm sure that obviously if it was an inside job, there would be a lot of knowledge beforehand because they were probably planning it. And they might have even ran a simulation of, this is normally what they do. They run a simulation. Okay, this may happen. And if this does happen, how do we do this, and this? Does that make sense? And so they can figure out and have debates to manipulate the outcomes of when they actually launch that thing. Same thing happened with COVID They literally got the leaders of the world months before they launched COVID, and they said, all right, this may happen. What do we do if it does happen? You know, and we could watch videos of that event happening. So did they do that with 9/11? They might have, right? So interesting. And also maybe the prior knowledge. There was a lot. I mean, look at the list of people who actually called out of work that day, and you'll see some groups vanished that day. They all called out. How? How did they know? Who told them? Right. So pretty interesting. Building collapse. Critics argue that the way the Twin Towers collapsed was inconsistent with the original explanation of a pancake theory of the floors collapsing due to heat from airplane impacts of substantial fires. They argue that the building should have shown more resistance and that the controlled demolition is more likely explained. Absolutely. Well, you could see some evidence of it after the wreckage. You could see these big steel beams with perfectly nice angled cut marks. But again, how does a building A lot of people say it gets weaker because it gets heavier. But that's also not quite the case because the base gets stronger and stronger to absorb that. It just doesn't go like so. Realistically, my logic would be thinking it would pancake to a certain extent and then go to the side. That's what should have happened unless there was something crushing those bottom floors, which what was crushing the bottom floors, maybe it was explosives that weakened it and it also allowed it to fall at the same time or beforehand or so forth. You have a lot of people all saying that they were hearing explosions quite often, you know, but again, think of it kind of logically, think of structurals on a small scale. It doesn't quite make sense how it went perfectly down because there should be some structural integrity at the exactly kind of midway, a little bit lower than that, that would shifted that weight down. That just makes more logic to me. I don't know about you. You can argue that all you want, but we also see evidence that supports me because you see perfectly good angled cuts on the layers of the building. You can see that with pictures. You can see that a lot of people have documented that. So that would make sense. If something thermite cut those steel beams to weaken the structure, it allowed it to go all the way down. Without that, it may never happen. It would have collapsed the other way. Well, how did they get those explosives in there? How long have they been in there? Were they doing construction weeks before? There's evidence and there's people saying that there was construction, there was things going on weeks before that. So forth. Insider trading. Another argument revolves around alleged unusual stock market activity in the days leading to 9/11. Some theories claim that certain individuals or entities made significant profits by trading stocks related to the airlines involved in companies housed the Twin Towers, suggesting foreknowledge of the attacks. Could it be insider trading? It could be technical analysis, people that read charts and say, hey, something big might be coming, risking off. But I haven't looked into that at all. As a trader who somebody trades myself, that's actually pretty interesting. Maybe you could go back and look at the charts and see what happened beforehand, how big they are. It probably was insider trading, absolutely. I mean, look at the insurance policies. How many people knew something might happen or something big may happen? I mean, at that point in time, you know, September 9/11, I mean, September time is, I don't know. This is the first time I actually heard that one, so that's interesting. But I don't know. Number 7, lack of air defense response. Skeptics question why the U.S. air defense systems failed to intercept any of the hijacked airplanes in a timely manner, despite having systems in place to respond to such threats. They argue that this lack of response raises suspicion and implies intentional negligence. This is a funny one because we know why. They were having a training. And this also kind of supports there's so many people that would know it can never happen. How could they launch something like this when thousands of people would have to be involved? And yes and no. Would be thousands of people involved, but there's many of those people that have no clue what's going on. They had a response, they had everything, but they were in training. They were told to do something else. Well, it only takes maybe one person to put training on or put together a training program and saying, hey, it's going to happen September 11th. Push everything that way. September 11th, this is what we're doing. And the pilot, I might have no idea. Hey, I'm just going to work. I'm doing my job. I have a training program to do. I'm doing my training somewhere else. Oh shit, I get a call. What, there's terrorist attack? Oh shit. Well, I'm from too far away. Like, I'm not in position. Did that pilot know anything? No, but was he a part of it? Absolutely, right? Because he wasn't in the area where he should be that could intercept these things of sort, right? So, but it doesn't take that many people for these agendas to happen, even though there's a lot of people involved, okay? And so that's with the air defense. Pretty simple. Somebody high up, above everybody else's pay grade, knows what's going on. They put together a training program. Everybody else under it thought they were just doing their job, doing the training program, and they positioned themselves to allow this to happen. So, the National Institute of Standards and Technology issued a report of the collapse of the Twin Towers, but many conspiracy theories criticize its methodology and conclusion. They claim that the report ignored key evidence and didn't adequately address alternative explanations. A report only gets put out if they like what it said. If somebody puts out a report and calls all these big corporations scammers, cheaters, this and that, do you think that they're going to allow it on the corporation's platforms into the public eye? Absolutely not. So the only reports that get put out are the ones that completely ignore logic, and it says everything that they want them to say. Good boys and girls, we're going to use that for the world to see. Don't look at me. It came from them. We had nothing to do with it. But it's all bullcrap, right? We kind of know this. Again, what happened with COVID? We only got vaccines good, that's good, this good, masks are good. When none of the real evidence kind of supported that. They only publish what they want to be pushed into the masses. They have control over that, right? So that was the top 8 things. A couple things about 9/11. I was wanting to talk about my conspiracy that I always kind of talk about, and I don't hear too many arguments about it. So many people argue that there was not a plane on Flight 93. It looked like a missile hitting an empty ground. There's not many parts, so forth. There's no bodies, whatever. We can argue that there was no plane at the Pentagon. But what happened to the people? So if those missiles replaced the plane, and the people that were on the plane, families are still missing. A lot of people would say it was actors, right? Well, these people never existed. Everybody's an actor. Well, now you have so many people involved. There were literally people crying and mad that their family members are not coming back because they were on one of those planes. Can you imagine having that many actors? Oh, so what happened to the people? What happened to the planes? There's an argument that suggests, and I think that guy went missing or something, but somebody put out evidence and did like a GoPro and went to a junkyard in Arizona, and I guess he found Flight 93, the actual plane. He found evidence that it was that plane from United Airlines or American Airlines or whatever, and so forth. So let's just say, where are the people? What happened to the people? And here's my conspiracy. I'm going to end it here. But what happened if these planes took off, went to a military airbase, and those people were all basically kidnapped? And those same people wound up in labs to be tested on. You know, a lot of conspiracy theorists say, oh, our government and big celebrities or whatever steal kids and use them for harvesting and all this crap. And you don't think that they would maybe take people as well to test on, to test new drugs, to test new vaccines, to test things, to test crazy things, right? And record it. That's what kind of keeps me up at night sometimes, is what happened to those people. Because I don't believe that they were actors. I knew somebody's sister's husband that was on a plane, because one of the planes was from San Francisco, I was from there. So what happened to the people? That's all I want to know. What happened to the people? Are they in Area 51 underground where the aliens are? Maybe they are the aliens, right? Maybe humans that have gotten kidnapped, that get tested on, are the real aliens of the world, and nobody can see that because obviously, how would the public react if they know that they kidnap people to test crazy products on? That would be pretty not good, right? But 9/11, was it an inside job? You tell me. What is your thoughts on it? If you like these crazy videos, tell me about it. It's just something that, to get me kind of talking, to making crazy videos, what's going on in my mind. Help me think also logically about things when I talk about it out loud and to myself, and using AI to do it. So it's pretty interesting. And again, why does some of this interest me, and why should it interest you, is because what happened after 9/11. We launched a massive war in Iraq. It allowed them to print money, allowed them to create different agendas, weapons of mass destruction, which allowed a society to, bound together, unite, and to kick the can down the road for America to remain the dominant power of the world, right? So it definitely had a big agenda. That's why I kind of like talking about it, and so forth. It's something that affected all of our lives, regardless. If Michelle Obama has a dick or not, that doesn't affect my life. I don't care about those conspiracy theories. So 9/11, hope you all have a great day. Don't forget history, right? Don't forget the history. Think about it. Think about what the agendas are. We're just small fish in the world, but think about stuff. Peace.